The 2024 presidential race is literally 50-50. That is according to Nate Silver's latest presidential forecast. According to the model, Harris wins in 50.1% of simulations, while Trump wins in 49.7%. There's also a 0.3% chance the Electoral College could end up tied at 269 electoral votes each. In these simulations, Harris averages 274.9 electoral votes to Trump's 263.1. In terms of the popular vote, Harris is projected to win 50.6% to Trump's 48.3%, giving her a national margin of 2.3%. This would reflect a more than 2-point shift toward Trump since Biden won the popular vote by 4.5 points in 2020. Clearly, the race is tightening, with Trump gaining momentum just 3 weeks out from Election Day. Now let's fill out a 2024 presidential map based on this new forecast, and I'll share my thoughts on the ratings, considering factors like demographic data, voting patterns, and prediction markets. We'll begin by filling in the solid states, those where either candidate has at least a 95% chance of winning. Starting with the safe red states for Trump, we have Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah, both North and South Dakota. Statewide in Nebraska, plus the 1st and 3rd districts, not listed here, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and South Carolina. Also included are West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana, and notably Ohio, which is worth 17 electoral votes. Altogether, these safe Republican states give Donald Trump 139 electoral votes. This can be considered his absolute baseline. It's almost certain that he will carry at least this many electoral votes on election night. Now, for Vice President Kamala Harris, she has a better than 95% chance in Washington, Oregon, California, and Hawaii, followed by Colorado, Illinois, and in the Northeast, Virginia, D.C., Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Maine's 1st congressional district, not listed here. Combined, her safe states account for 204 electoral votes. This gives Harris a strong early advantage in the states that are virtually guaranteed to vote in her favor. Before we dive into the more competitive states, a quick reminder, only about 20% of you are subscribed, so please take a moment to hit the free subscribe button below for more content like this leading up to Election Day. Now moving on to the likely states, these are states where either candidate has between an 80% and 95% chance of winning. While they are a bit more vulnerable for both Harris and Trump compared to the safe states, each candidate still maintains a clear edge. For Trump, the likely states include Iowa, worth 6 electoral votes, Texas, with its 40 electoral votes, making it the 2nd largest prize on the map. And finally, Florida, the 3rd largest prize with 30 electoral votes. Trump has a very strong chance of keeping these states in the Republican column. In the 2020 election, Trump carried Iowa by 8 points, Texas by approximately 5.5 points, and Florida by 3.4%. Notably, Florida is one of the fastest right-trending states in the nation, as it was one of only 5 states where Trump improved his margin from the 2016 election. In Texas, the Republican Party's rapid gains among Hispanic voters in South Texas have likely put the state out of reach for Democrats for the foreseeable future, with Trump leading Harris by at least 5 points in every survey included in the Real Clear polling average. Looking at the betting market odds over on BetOnline, Republicans are favored at minus 2,000 in Iowa. Meanwhile, all the way down here in Texas, Republicans are also favored by a wide margin, minus 1,800, and then finally up here in Florida, Trump is favored at minus 1,500. I like to compare these odds to the polls because betting markets provide real-time reflections of the public's consensus on who will win, whereas polls capture public opinion at a specific moment in time. Now, for the likely states leaning toward Kamala Harris, she is heavily favored in New Mexico, which has 5 electoral votes, and in her running mate Tim Walz's home state of Minnesota, where she has an 89% chance of securing its 10 electoral votes. Moving further up the Northeast, starting with New Hampshire, Harris has an 82% chance of carrying its 4 electoral votes in November. This isn't surprising given that Biden carried New Hampshire by 7 points in 2020, and Harris now leads Trump by an even larger margin in the latest Real Clear polling average. Harris also has a strong 90% chance of winning Maine's 2 statewide electoral votes. As a reminder, both Maine and Nebraska split their electoral votes by congressional district, with one vote going to the candidate who wins each district. Speaking of districts, Nate Silver gives Harris a 92% chance of holding Nebraska's 2nd district, which leans heavily Democratic due to its urban makeup around Omaha. The district voted for Biden by 6.6% in 2020 and continues to trend Democratic. With all these likely states awarded to both candidates on the map, Harris's electoral vote lead has almost completely closed, now holding 226 votes to Trump's 215. This leaves 97 electoral votes still up for grabs across the most competitive states that will ultimately decide who reaches that magic number, 270. Let's now take a closer look at the lean states where either candidate has a 65% to 80% chance of winning, according to Nate Silver's forecast model. In this category, we find Arizona worth 11 electoral votes, where Trump currently has a 66% chance of winning. In 2020, Arizona turned blue for only the 2nd time in 70 years, largely due to the rapid growth and diversification of Maricopa County, which includes the Phoenix metro area. However, the state only voted for Biden by a razor-thin margin of 0.3%, and Arizona still maintains its fundamentally Republican roots, as reflected in this probability. Trump is currently leading the Real Clear polling average by over a point, based on the last 7 polls, where he has led in 5 of them. The other lean state for Trump is Alaska, worth just 3 electoral votes. Interestingly, Nate Silver gives Trump a 77.7% chance of winning here, which is far lower than I would personally project, and lower than how other pundits and forecasts view his chances. Alaska has only voted blue once in its history as a state, but it's worth noting that Trump's 10-point win in 2020 was the narrowest margin for a Republican in 60 years. Nate Silver also gives Trump a solid advantage in Maine's 2nd congressional district with a 77% chance of winning. Trump carried this district's 1 electoral vote in both 2016 and 2020, and it appears to lean in his direction again for 2024. Alright, Trump has now taken the lead in the electoral vote count with 230 to Harris's 226, and just 6 states remain. Along with Arizona, these states are often grouped as the 2024 cycle's core battleground states, because each was decided by less than 3 points in 2020. With the exception of Nevada, which voted blue both times, and North Carolina, which went to Trump in both cycles, the other 5 states flipped from Trump in 2016 to Biden in 2020. Both candidates' paths to the White House heavily depend on Pennsylvania, the largest prize left on the map with 19 electoral votes. For Harris, her most efficient route is to sweep Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, which would give her exactly 270 electoral votes. On the other hand, Trump's clearest path is to hold North Carolina and then flip Georgia and Pennsylvania. In this scenario, he wouldn't even need Arizona, as those 3 states would bring him to 270. So again, Pennsylvania is key for both candidates, and that's further illustrated by Nate Silver's forecast, which assigns Pennsylvania a 29% chance of being the tipping point state, almost double the next most likely state, Michigan. If Harris wins Pennsylvania, she would have an 87% chance of winning the election, while Trump would have a 92% chance if he carries the states. Right now, Nate Silver's forecast gives Harris a 54% chance of winning, which is why she remains slightly favored to reach the 270 electoral vote threshold. Harris also has a 57% chance of winning Michigan, a 53% chance in Wisconsin, and a 55% chance in Nevada. If she wins all 4 of these states, her electoral tally would rise to 276, surpassing the necessary 270. Meanwhile, Trump is favored in North Carolina with a 62% chance, and in Georgia with a 61% chance. Together, these states bring his total to 262 electoral votes. This means the election hinges on one of 3 key states. If Trump can break through in any of the Upper Rust Belt core trio, he would secure a 2nd non-consecutive term in the Oval Office. This is shaping up to be one of the closest and hardest to predict elections in modern history. Trump has the momentum at this point, so we'll have to wait and see if he takes the lead in the coming weeks. That does it for today's video, though. Shout out to my channel members in the description below. Make sure to subscribe to my channel down below, and please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. You can check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.